This is the Daily Drop
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
with Addy and Shrimsy. From Daddy and Addy talking geopolitics, science, and anything and everything under the sun. Every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And now, here's your hosts, Shrimsy and Addy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Today is Saturday. It is September the 5th of 2020, and it is another episode of the Shrimp Zoo and Attican Show pandemic podcast. Title still working, but we wanted to talk a lot today. Just wanted to bring up India versus China. We have seen some skirmishes this year over in the east, in the far east border of India and China, go hot with 15 to 16 melees or skirmishes so far this year, resulting in the deaths of 20 Indian soldiers, including one officer, 43 Chinese casualties, with also an officer dead as well. Both sides took prisoners. But both sides released all prisoners as well. And that was, I think the biggest skirmish was in June. Excuse me, I misspoke. 15th, 16th of June, not 15-16 melee. So a couple months ago now, but it hasn't been getting much, if at all, attention over here in the U.S. or in the U.K. But, you know, it's something pretty big when you got Indian soldiers and Chinese soldiers actually fighting each other, and you got Indian soldiers dying very patriotically, fighting the CCP. And what's basically the root of this is a geographic dispute. There's a couple geographical locations, one called Aksai Chin, held by China, claimed by India, directly east of Pakistan, and then Arunachal Pradesh, which is the opposite. It's held by India and claimed by China. And that is immediately east of the small landlocked country of Bhutan. And this week, India just sent a warship into the South China Sea with, a bit of an arm wrestle, posturing there with what's been called black gold over there in the South China Sea, which is the oil. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention because I think it's quite big news. I mean, if we heard something about U.S. soldiers getting into skirmishes with China, it would be all over the news. So shout out to those Indians who died for their country, very patriotically. And fortunately, both prisoners, both sets of prisoners were released after a couple days.
No shout outs to the Chinese soldiers that died, though. We don't really know how many Chinese soldiers died, though, I feel like.
Yeah, I couldn't find any verifications on actual deaths or injuries. It just said 43 Chinese casualties total. I don't have a problem with Chinese people.
There's probably a few dozen Chinese soldiers dead.
Oh, I would imagine it's more or less the same. Yeah, India has actually quite a strong military, and they have a lot of people.
Another thing I think people don't realize is India, at least for now, India and China have a agreement not to have guns and stuff on the border. That's why the skirmishes are being fought hand to hand with like clubs and stuff. Their border posts aren't armed right now, but they probably will be soon.
Oh wow, I did not know that. So they're fighting like back in the old days,
basically, like bats and stuff.
Just hand to hand combat. Okay, wow.
Cliffs. Most of the people
dude,
are being shoved off the cliffs.
Shit, dude. I didn't know that. They're flying hand to hand. Those skirmishes must have been crazy, dude. Like, if 20 people died just in hand to hand combat, like that is.
Yeah. It's usually like one. I guess what's happening is like there's people going on, like just going along the border, checking everything. And it's just like maybe one or two people, and then they might meet one or two Indians, and then they run back to the base, get reinforcements, and then like these huge battles take place. They go back and get clubs and stuff, whatever they can get at their little checkout posts or whatever they are.
I did not know that. Yeah, I suppose if it was hot with bullets, it would be probably a lot more casualties. Yeah, so if there's that many casualties, I have to imagine there's at least twice as many combatants, if not more, if they're dying in hand-to-hand combat.
Do you think it will escalate?
I don't know, man. It seems to be with this warship being sent into the South China Sea, but I don't know. Some people are calling it proxy, but India is freaking huge, dude. They have I don't even know how many people they have. I'll look it up really quick. But when you got two of the biggest countries in the world, getting into a fight, I don't think that's a proxy war. Just because we're supporting them, right? They got 1.3 billion people. So yeah, it's the fifth. It's the second most populated country in the world, behind, I think, China. Yes, and then of course we are number 3, which is and a very far behind number 3. We got China 1.4 billion, India 1.3 billion. So both of them almost have each an entire fifth of the world's population, Chinese and Indians, and we have a mere 4.23%. So just goes to show you just how big those countries are in terms of population. Yeah, you can call it proxy if you want. I would disagree with that, just because we are obviously going to be supporting India in that. I don't think it means we're necessarily trying to instigate a fight with India, because that would be, or with the Chinese, because I think that would turn into a world war within certainly a year or two, but maybe sooner. I don't know. What do you think? If it went hot?
I think China will de-escalate eventually, because they have a lot of trade with India, and Indians are starting to boycott Chinese products and burn them in the streets and stuff. I think China will de-escalate. I think they would rather take Taiwan or something than take India.
Yeah. India is kind of a big. It's not one of the giants like us or China or Russia in terms of military might, but they have a lot of men they can throw into battle. So yeah, I think it would make much more sense strategically to go after, like you said, Taiwan, Formosa, or Hong Kong.
Yeah, and basically the entire ocean that's surrounding China, the South China Sea, they want all that.
Yeah.
All those islands and stuff that are contested.
And I used to live in Okinawa, Japan, and the Chinese, on their maps, they have Okinawa listed as part of China, believe it or not. And that island, it's so strategically placed there. It's been fought over, since the dawn of time, pretty much, and that's obviously there's the famous Battle of Okinawa in World War II with the island hopping campaign, which was going to be used as a stepping stone onto the mainland before the Japanese capitulation. But yeah, Japanese have been fighting over it. There are even Okinawans who don't even see themselves as necessarily part of Japan or China. So that's an interesting thing about that a relatively small island of Okinawa.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then I just wanted to pivot to debt. We can go back to India and China if we want in a bit here, but I didn't know where I was going with this per se, but I just wanted to list these debt numbers just because they're crazy. So the public debt for the United States is at $27 trillion. Every citizen, just as a function of being born in the United States or becoming a naturalized citizen, owes approximately $80,000 each as a part of public debt. The U.S. mortgage debt is $13 trillion. So this is all private debts now. Student debt is at $1.5 trillion. Consumer debt, which includes credit cards, etc., $4.2 trillion. Corporate debt, $10 trillion. So it's just insane. And I read it that sometime this year, our debt will actually exceed our GDP, which has never happened before.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
We live in a credit economy. It's based pretty much all on credit. Our economy
Yeah,
is
we basically
borrowing.
we're about to owe more money than we are making. That's going to be bad. That's probably going to happen for a few years in a row.
Yeah, unless some
They
drastic changes are made
they keep saying
for
every
that.
quarter that like there's going to be growth and stuff, but that's just lies. They're just printing money out and propping the stock market up. There's not going to be huge growth next quarter. They keep saying that. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't see it happening that quickly either.
Yeah, it's going to take a while to recover the economy.
Yeah.
And it won't really recover that fast if the riots and protests continue.
Yeah, I think even regardless of who wins in November, it's going to take a while to get the locomotive up back at top speed again, so to speak. Say Biden, even if Biden does wins, and
If Biden wins, the protests and riots will die down probably. If Trump wins, they
it'll get worse.
will experience riots and looting and protests like we haven't ever seen before.
Yeah.
It might lead to like a really messy conflict.
I don't know about you, but I would be quite shocked if Biden won.
I'm not sure who's gonna win. Really. I don't know.
Yeah. Robert David Steele was saying that he thinks that Trump was actually behind. He said that, I think it was last month. And then the polls came out, this week? And they said Biden was ahead 10 points, and no president has ever fumbled a lead like that. But I don't trust the polls for anything. And
I mean, all the worst things to ever happen in like 100 years are all happening under Trump, though. But if
why do you think that is, Trump? Not 100 years. I mean, certainly not 100 years.
Well,
but
I'd say this is the worst virus since the Spanish flu. It's worse than any of the swine flus or anything like that. It's worse than polio. It's worse than any other outbreak we've ever had since the Spanish flu.
What else? What other
maybe not
events would you
AIDS.
say?
It's not worse than AIDS. I mean,
yeah, but AIDS is not very contagious at all.
I don't know. I guess a Democrat wouldn't really have been able to like stop coronavirus from reaching America either. They could have prolonged it. Yeah. It was inevitable, I guess. No political leader was going to stop it. Didn't matter which side they were from.
Why do you think that is?
The only countries to really, there's only one country that kind of stopped it, which was New Zealand. They're the only
Taiwan did a very good job as well.
Yeah, New Zealand had like 0 cases for a really long time, and every now and then they have an outbreak from like somebody flying in the country, but they kind of have a little travel bubble of only a few places can go there.
Right. Yeah, and it's also not a very
it's small.
country.
There's not a lot of people.
It's very far away as well.
Have done that.
Yeah,
I think did a good job though. They say Sweden might have herd immunity or close now. And Sweden now has like the lowest death rate in Europe about.
Yeah, I read that. It looks like they I was reading an article, it must have been a week and a half ago, and they're saying it looks like Sweden got it right. Which
the news makes it out like you have to be a neo-Nazi to believe that. It's stupid. If you go
that the Swedish got it right about this.
But the Swedish are super liberal and like
and they're very they're similar to the Japanese in a way, even though it may not seem like it. I think because they think about the community more so than the West does.
As much there.
Yeah, like they think about the greater, more. I don't know if I would call it the moral good, but maybe just the greater good in terms of health. I think, generally speaking, just outside of the pandemic, they do that better than the West does, certainly. And Japanese do that with everything. They're all about being a good part of the community as opposed to the individualism that we have in the States, right?
Yeah, Sweden just told people to be careful. They implemented a few things, and They made like nursing homes super strict and a few other places. I've heard reports though that COVID is causing a lot of heart problems long term. I don't think you're going to be able to shield entire countries' populations from COVID though.
Yeah. You know what scares me with the COVID too is the permanent organ damage that you're seeing in some people.
It seems pretty rare, but it's going to lead up to thousands.
Yeah.
It's going to be equivalent to having a world war and having like tens of thousands of people injured. It's going to be like the same thing. From the original SARS virus, there's people they can't even walk upstairs because they were so messed up. Some people are going to end up like that, where they already are. There's
You
already
mean even after they recovered?
Yeah, like to this day, there's people that from the original SARS where they can't feel their fingers. Like I was reading this one report from this guy. He was making food on his oven and he smelled something really gross burning. Smelled like burnt hair or something. He looked down and his hands were like melting off because they were like melted on the stove. He couldn't feel it because he lost all feeling in his fingers from the original SARS virus.
Wow.
His heart and lungs. He couldn't walk more than like 10 feet without being out of breath. Some of those people, they got messed up.
That was the 2002 to 2004 outbreak, right? The first one.
Yeah.
Of SARS.
I think 2003 to 2004.
Okay. Wow, I did not know that, man. Because I thought you were talking about during the flu. I was like, well, I've been sick before where I just can't. I literally will like lie in the bathroom floor. I'm so sick and I can't move for like half an hour. But even after they recovered, they saw those crazy symptoms. But again, it does seem to be not with the original SARS, but with coronavirus. Even like Hashimoto's, the rashes in children. You know, all this is very
rare, but it's worse than the flu still.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's rare, but again, very strange, very uncommon, and yeah, definitely worse than the flu. Even a bad flu, I think.
Unless you get it asymptomatic, then it's like not as bad as the flu.
Yeah, which is another thing. You know, as far as I can tell, scientists can't understand why that is. It's got to be genetics, man. It's got to be genetics and how your gene expression has functioned up to this point in life, right? What is your current health? What's your current vitamins, your current diet, and your gene expression? You know, whatever that is. I don't know. When we don't even know, you know, exactly how that affects it. I mean, Paul was saying when I spoke to him actually initially that it seems to be that whites and, well, he was right about the males, right? Well, that's kind of in general, all sicknesses, right? Males, they are just, for whatever reason, you know, females just have better immune systems for fighting off infections and viruses. I remember I was reading about, I think it was MERS, and I want to say it was in South Korea or England. I can't remember, but something like 10 or 12 men and women got it, and all the men died and all the females survived.
Yeah, that's correct. I've read that too.
Yeah, and but they kept that one relatively under control, because there was, you know, a couple flare-ups, right? A couple outbreaks.
People think that it could only be bad if there's something like a MERS pandemic or something, but you can have a virus outbreak that only kills like 0.5% or 1% or even less, and it could be really bad. The flu only kills like 1 out of 100,000, something like that.
Yeah, and it's usually an old person.
Yeah,
almost certainly. But yeah, MERS would be scary. That virus looks very scary to me.
We would never be able to defeat a MERS outbreak.
You just have to let it run its course.
We can't defeat coronavirus, so.
Yeah. And it's funny, I was reading about another virus called the Sin Nombre virus. It comes from the Four Corners region of the southwestern United States. And at first, they named it after the Navajo reservation, but they didn't like that. And then they named it after the town that it was found, and the town people didn't like that. So they just called it the Sin Nombre virus, which means without a name. But that actually comes from deer mice, and it can only be, it can't be transmitted from human to human. It's only by inhalation of basically mouse feces, a deer mice feces, because a couple got it and they both died. And this was in like a campground where you rent like a cabin type of thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was one of the mice
Like
in the cabin.
hantavirus.
Yeah, you're right. It was a hantavirus. Yeah. So we've both done quite a bit of reading on it. Isn't it fascinating reading about it? I love reading about like David Quammen's work too. I think he has
I
great.
hope there is no real dangerous virus outbreak. It just seems we'll never really be able to contain it because this one isn't really that bad. And if there's anything that's super serious, we're screwed.
Yeah. I mean, what if the Chinese release something again in October, or whenever they did last year? I don't know.
It's the end of the Western world done.
And then they invade. Well, thank God I left the West Coast.
Does China want American territory?
Oh, remember what I said about the Canadian territory earlier this week?
I think China could just prop up Antifa if they wanted. I don't think they really want our land. They might just prop up Antifa and China could take Africa. I think China.
Dude, they want it all, dude. They want world domination. That's what communism is about.
Maybe, but I don't think they want to like be in our land controlling us. I think they'd rather like colonize Africa than America.
Well, they are, as far as I can tell, but it's easier to do that. I mean, we're the biggest and strongest athlete in the world right now in terms of athlete. I'm talking about our military. And
well, they say I read a report that said China's about to overtake us actually pretty soon.
Yeah, well, we definitely spend the most on our military, but that may be fear mongering, that report. I don't know. But yeah, let's talk about
China. I'm sure China can like spend way less than us and do things way more efficiently. I'm not sure that matters entirely because if we have like $100 billion contract, half of that's probably being stolen and there's all this corruption.
I'm sure you're right, Shrimp. But the thing is, they had no problem working their people to death. Like they just get a bunch of new guys working to death.
Oh yeah, they can do slave labor and stuff.
Yeah, or you just get prisoners to work them to death. Like they have their they use their prisoners and sell them for organ harvesting, which I think you may know.
The Uyghurs.
Yeah, anybody who's imprisoned. If a rich Westerner or rich anybody around the world wants an organ, the prisoner gets killed and the organ gets harvested. But let's. I've got a question here from Carrie Johns. Do y'all think the vaccine is just a fantasy to give the false hope?
I think Trump is kind of trying to promise a vaccine before the election because will obviously give him like way better chances of being reelected if he gets a vaccine before the election.
Yeah, that's kind of all he cares about right now, for sure. But
I think
did you
both
see what
candidates
Putin said?
I don't know. I'm not taking the vaccine. I need to see millions of people take it over years to see that it's safe.
Putin said that they have a vaccine now that works against no matter how much viral material is in the body, it'll still work. That's what the claim is. But again, I got that from RT, so they're obviously going to be a little bit more pro Russia, to say the least. But do I think it's a fantasy? I mean, maybe a better question is, what is the purpose of promising a vaccine? I think it's definitely being politicized, like Shrimp was alluding to with the election. I mean, I think both parties at this point, they're just doing whatever they can to try to get their guy in office.
Yeah.
I don't think the vaccine is personally scientifically realistic at this point. I mean,
if they get a vaccine before the elections, then Biden will come out against the vaccine and say it's not safe.
You predicting that, Shrimp? Okay, we got it recorded.
Yeah, they definitely will.
People come back here if that happens.
The leading Democrats will say it's not safe.
Yeah, I mean, even like let's talk about the flu vaccine though. Do you take a yearly flu vaccine, Shrimp?
I'm fine with the flu vaccine. I don't ever normally take it, but I probably will
So
this year.
you don't usually take it.
Yeah, I'm not anti-vaxxer, but I don't take any vaccines. But I'm gonna take the flu vaccine this year, I think, and I'm not gonna take the COVID vaccine.
What?
Just
How? Explain that to me. Well, how does that make any sense?
I'm not anti-vaxxer, but I don't want to take vaccines that have mercury or any of them that are unsafe. I feel like the flu vaccine, it's been tried in like hundreds of millions of people forever now. We know that it's basically pretty safe, and I've had it before in my life a bunch. But the COVID one's like fast tracked. We don't know if it's going to be safe or not. We don't know what the long term effects are. Like the original, they tried making a vaccine for SARS. If they just followed through on that, we wouldn't be here in the first place. That vaccine more than likely probably would work for this virus as well. The reason they couldn't make that virus is because it killed every animal they tested it on. That's why I don't think it's safe, because we tried this already and we couldn't do it.
What do
So
they test it on? Like pigs?
they
Or
tested on ferrets and animals like that, because ferrets, for whatever reason, are like the best animal to test it on. Ferrets and minks and animals like that. It's one of the animals that
like weasels? Weasel
yeah
family?
transmits COVID pretty easily, and I think cats too. So they tested on those types of animals. I don't know if pigs can get COVID.
Yeah, I was just wondering because pigs have their flesh is like exactly like ours, more or less. It's not exactly, but you know what I mean. It's the most similar.
Yeah, I'm not sure if pigs can get COVID. So I know
Yeah,
some stuff
yeah.
from tigers.
Viruses are so fascinating, man. Especially when you think about it in terms of metaphysics, like good and evil. Like you got these invisible waves like fighting each other, which you can't even see.
I
You
mean,
know?
COVID might find a natural host in tigers or lions, and or what, or in the measles or weasel family or whatever, all around the world, or whatever other animals it can infect.
Yeah, just a new reservoir
Yeah,
host.
it'll just we'll. I doubt we'll ever be able to get rid of it. They've already called like entire mink farms in Europe over this.
Really?
Yeah, like tens of thousands of minks that they raise on farms for their fur.
They just cold them all.
Yeah, because the like whole population's had COVID.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm doubting, even with the vaccine, you're never like, we have a vaccine for the regular flu. We're not getting rid of it though. It's still there.
My parents, fortunately, my mother, I believe, was the decider. She didn't. I don't think we ever got a yearly flu vaccine that I can remember. I'm quite grateful for that. But I remember just getting, you know, your regular mandatory shots for STIs and the others like measles, mumps, rubella.
Yeah.
I had this scar on my deltoid, dude, for literally like 24 years. And then it disappeared recently. And yeah, I thought I was always going to have it. But yeah, I never had the vaccine for the yearly flu at all. But yeah, I mean, and the more I read about it, just like the mercury and aluminum that people put in the vaccines, I'm like, the less I'm
Yeah, it's
inclined
bad
to
for you.
trust, you know, to trust any of that. But trust in general, man, it's very rare commodity nowadays for sure. Is there a institution that you do trust, Shrimp?
The post office, I guess. I use them all the time. My mail seems to get to the destinations. That's why I don't understand why people like kiss the police's butts all the time. Why do they choose that branch of the government? Why don't they like worship judges, or like why don't they worship like the people that do our taxes, like the IRS or something? I don't know. The
Because
most trustworthy branch of the government is the post office to me. I don't know.
you think so? They lost my TV, man. I don't know if I told you that. They lost my 50-inch flat screen, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
So
it just seems like there's not much harm they can do. I use the post.
besides losing my TV.
I mean, I don't trust the NSA, the
Oh
police.
hell no.
I don't think a lot of people trust the police right now that much.
I don't understand people who, I don't know, maybe they just don't have the information. Like, they're just so corrupt, dude. They're just so corrupt. Like,
They don't only always do good; they do bad a lot of the times. What would
yeah,
you rather have on the streets, though? The police or Antifa or right-wing militia? I'd rather have the police than Antifa or militias.
I don't know. I can't answer that, dude.
Are you really? Do you
I'm
want
dead serious.
Antifa to overthrow the government then?
Oh hell no, dude. That's not what I said. I guess my point is we don't know what that situation would be like in 2020.
If I get pulled over, I don't want to get pulled over by Black Lives Matter or Antifa or a right-wing militia member. I feel safe as getting pulled over by the police, even though I don't like the police. Like, if I'm driving through downtown, I don't want to encounter Black Lives Matter protest or riot or Antifa members or militia members. I feel like the police is the best option for maintaining law and order, even though they are corrupt. They just need reform. I mean, they're gonna call in the National Guard into Portland eventually. If Trump wins, when he wins, he'll call in the National Guard. New York City last night, there was $100,000 in damaging from rioting. There was rioting in my sister in Jersey City, so there was a little bit of rioting. There's rioting in Buffalo, Rochester.
Yo, what happened with Rochester last night, man? You said it was too dangerous.
I was gonna go there, but there was like a million cars, and there wasn't a million people, but it looked like it. It was just like, as soon as I got off the highway, there was too many people and cars, so I don't know, I didn't want to drive through like a million people, and they were smashing windows and stuff. I don't know, so I just turned around. I didn't feel like I should park my car on the street there.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back though and like find somewhere to park that's not near the protest area.
Then walk in.
Well, yeah, because they're flipping cars and lighting stuff on fire and smashing windows in Rochester. Rochester is going crazier than Buffalo.
Yeah,
Buffalo is now boarding up all the windows and stuff. Like every place is like boarded up now. On like the main streets, like Hurdle and downtown is starting to board up. There's been protests all over, I guess, Western New York.
Mr. still said that he thinks that most of these are just like white kids who don't know very much about the world and who are like basically coming out of the universities as neo-Marxists and illegal black immigrants, like Somalian immigrants.
The protest on Hurdle in Buffalo was mostly black, and that's a mostly white. It's a mixed area, but probably mostly white. And Hurdle is a street in Buffalo. Most of the protesters that have been going there this week are black.
But do you think they're citizens? Because Steele was saying that a lot of them are just illegal Somalian immigrants.
There's only like a handful of Somalians in Buffalo. They're not Somalians. It's local residents from Buffalo. That's not true.
Okay.
There's protests in Kenmore and Buffalo, and a lot of it's Black Lives Matter. Rochester is a ton of white Antifa people, plus tons of Black Lives Matter, black and white and Puerto Rican, whatever else. But the protest in Buffalo, the Black Lives Matter protest on Hurdle this week, it's mostly black people, and then there's some white people too.
And these young university kids are just really getting annoying, man. Like I was thinking about this today, dude. I forgot about this, but I was DJing once in for the radio station at this it was like a campus event, and there was like a bunch of groups. They all did kind of a performance. Like there was like the ladies belly dancing group. There was this guy who like juggled like bowling pins and stuff, and then there was this I think two guys that did like flips and stuff. It was actually in the library, at college library, and a couple other groups too. So I was playing music for each group, right, whatever they wanted, and then afterwards I was just doing my own set for the kids that were there. There was just like a pizza party afterwards, and this girl like came up and requested that the song be changed because it made her uncomfortable. And I did change it, but I was like, why don't you just like today? I was like, dude, why don't you just leave? Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to be here.
Yeah, people get too offended today. But I know what you're talking about. I've seen these Black Lives Matter protests, and it's not true in Buffalo, but I've seen these Black Lives Matter protests where it's just like all like white college kids holding up
Mhm.
black, and it just looks weird. Or
Yeah.
you see like old rich white ladies that are all Black Lives Matter, and it does you like question it kind of like how authentic is this? It's weird.
Yeah, I think it's the name itself is almost by definition divisive. And Pepsi Watson said the same thing when I chatted with him from live in prison at HMP The Mount, and I agree. I think it's just a wrong name to choose because it automatically categorizes people based on something they can't control, and that's how you look. You know, like you can't control how you look, how tall you are, etc. So, anyways, we're at 35 minutes here, Shrimp. I think that was a great conversation we had tonight. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Again, today's the 5th of September, and we're gonna chat tomorrow. We're gonna have at least an hour, power hour with Attican and Shrimp. Tomorrow, we'll might go longer, maybe go 90 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark. See how we're doing. Just kind of go with the flow then. But I actually put the link to our podcast channel in this description box. I haven't done it with the previous broadcasts or episodes that we've done so far of our show, but go ahead and give that a sub. It's under Shrimp Zoo's name right now, but I think we're going to change it at some point to our podcast
leave a comment below and leave some suggestions what we should name this podcast.
Yeah, we're having some trouble, guys. Let us know. We were going to do Pandemic Podcast or the Great Awakening Podcast or the Pandemic Awakening, something like that. I don't know. We're kind of undecided, but we're not too much on a deadline yet. So yeah, for sure, good idea. Just leave some suggestions, guys. Go and subscribe to Mr. Shrimp Zoo on YouTube and check him out on Twitter. Check me out on Twitter as well, and my brand new YouTube as well. Is I think I'm back on the front page, so that's pretty cool. If people want to go and check that out. But yeah, and then suggestions for topics you guys want us to cover that we are not covering. Anything like that would be much appreciated as well too. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for talking with me tonight, Shrimp. And stay frosty, folks. Again, we got our long show tomorrow. And until next time.